galactic sentient broadcast. Target, planet Earth. Begin invasion in 3, 2, 1.
Greetings, invaders. My name is Scott. Welcome back to Book Invasion, where we talk about sci-fi, horror, fantasy books. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about a book I recently finished on audio called A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. This is book 1 in the Take Them to the Stars series. This book just came out last year. Now, as a big fan of the Themis Files series, which is Sylvain Neuvel's earlier trilogy, Sleeping Giants, Waking Gods, Only Human. Big fan. I had heard some rumblings about this book, that it was kind of an alternate history with a sci-fi twist. Now, history is definitely not my strong suit. I don't really gravitate towards alternate history, historical fiction, anything like that. I'm more concerned about what's happening kind of going forward in the future and things like that. But so this one I was a little bit hesitant to pick up and kind of dive into. So my expectations going into the book were a little skewed, I suppose. Now, what I was really excited for about this book was that it was, quote, a darkly satirical take on the 1940s rocketry and space exploration race. And I was like, all right, I know Neuvel did a bit of funny humor things in the Sleeping Giants and the Themis Files series. Hopefully there's a bit more of that in this. How funny or enjoyable can we make a historical sci-fi book about 1940s rocketry? so I was interested in it. So it piqued my interest and I wanted to get to it. And I really appreciate the amount of passion that Sylvain, or whoever the publisher, puts into the audiobooks that he writes, because there are a lot of things that play well in an audio formats in his books, like the dialogue and the Themis Files are all interview formats. The dialogue in this book between Mia, who's the main character here, and Sarah, which is her mother, the narrators on there in real life are actually mother and daughter. There's an interview with them kind of at the end of the audiobook if you stick with it. But it was really cool that they kind of did something like that, is where they did a real mother and daughter pair to narrate this fictional mother and daughter pair. So that was cool. But anyway, but the narration of this book and his books in particular kind of are really well done with the full casts. There are about 5 or 6 different characters in here. The accents and the way that they speak and interact with each other is really well formed, like you're listening to more of a radio program or something than someone narrating a book, verbatim. You get a bit more of interaction when it's a cast recording like that. And I thought that's always really well done with his books, and same is the case in A History of What Comes Next. So going into the book, the first, quarter of it was a little bit slow for me. It didn't have that sci-fi twist. It was more of, we're covering, 1940s Germany or 1920s Hitler Germany, and Mia and Sarah trying to find their way through how they can accomplish getting us to the stars, how take them to the stars, them being us. Now, Mia and Sarah, the two main characters here, are not included in us. People are them, and they are these kibsu, which we learn more about as the story goes on. And they are the 99th. The book starts off with, we are the 99th. So you kind of are like, what is that supposed to mean? 99th of what? But as you get to reading, they're the 99th generation of this kind of race, I suppose. So they are the them, so to speak, and the humans are us. So they need to take them to the stars. For some reason, there's a motivation between this race or whoever Mia and Sarah are, these kibsu, to get humans off of Earth and into outer space, which the motives for that I don't think are really clear in this book. We don't really know why. I think it was mentioned a few times, but going through the audio, I didn't take notes, obviously, because it's difficult. But we need to get into space. That's the goal. And Mia and Sarah's mission while they're on Earth is kind of to take us there, with a little touch of intervention from the kibsu here and there, without being just like obviously known. That aspect of the book reminded me a little bit of The Humans by Matt Haig. So if you like some type of touch of alien intervention between humans, technological progression of things, also read The Humans. That's a little plug. So the book also has a bit of violence in it. There's some brutal fight scenes that Mia goes through, where she can take down a group of guys, without even realizing what happened. She feels heat coming out of her body. She feels warm and sweaty when action's supposed to happen. So there's some kind of chemical thing in there. And as the story goes on, too, there are rules that the Kibsu are supposed to follow, kind of like don't bring attention to yourself, never be seen. They exist in the shadows. They're supposed to come out and take us to the stars, but meanwhile, if the spotlight's shown on us, we're just unassuming, humans that are, innocent and not doing anything to hide back in the shadows. Also in the book, besides the gory fight scenes, there is a bit of rocket science going on here. I didn't feel like it was too much that you couldn't just kind of glaze over it if you didn't understand it and still follow the story. It didn't hit you that hard with all the mathematical computations, yada yada. There's a bit of it here just because he needs to explain and research what it takes to get rockets to go up in the sky. There's also a female-female lesbian romance kind of happening in the midst of all this story, so there's a bit of representation there between Mia and someone she meets. So Mia has a bit of a love interest there, and that kind of skews her motivations at some point to do rash decisions like we always do when love is involved. So there's a bit of that. And towards the end of the book, I felt like I was really more interested in knowing a bit about the tracker and the people that are hunting the Kibsu. And when they're approached by the tracker, who really is the bad guy, knowing what actions that Mia had to take to get where she's at, and what the tracker had to do to find these people and find this quote-unquote device that we're not really sure the trackers are hunting. So towards the end of the book, I felt like it picked up a little bit more. You kind of realized what these people were that are interacting in this story with us, kind of intervening with our rocketry science and giving us a little bit of boost of calculations. So I was really interested in kind of where these Kibsu came from and the tracker and what their role is in the grand scheme of planet Earth and humanity. That's kind of where I was interested in. And there were sprinkles of that in between. And thinking back to the Themis Files, that kind of was also the case of there was a discovery of an alien technology, and why are they here? What are they doing? What are their purpose? So that story aspect, if you like the Themis Files and that part of it, where you're seeing touches of aliens and extraterrestrial things intertwined with humanity, that's a really good piece that plays well in the history of what comes next. At the end of the audiobook, he explains the research that he had to do and the true stories that took place of actual factual events that happened in this book as well, and the characters that he based it off of, the political keys, the bad guys here. So at the end of the audiobook, you get a real sense of like, wow, some of this stuff really happened, and I felt like that gave the book an awesome touch where it kind of beefed up my rating a little bit. Like you realize and how much research went into the story. And history is not a strong interest of mine, but that kind of really captured my attention, and I enjoyed that. So overall, I gave the book 4 out of 5 stars. If you did enjoy the Themis Files and you like that, but you also want a touch of history blended in, but also how a bit of a Men in Black feel. There's aliens among us, and we don't know who's who. A touch of that. I felt like that really played well in this story. So if you like that, if you like Sylvain Neuvel's writing, definitely check out the audiobook. I don't think it's a standout book. It's not something to really write home about. I feel like the series is going to pick up maybe in book 2. But if you like some action mixed in with your historical sci-fi, then definitely check out A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. Those are all my thoughts. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.